younger people especially, they are not buying into, I need to go sign up to work for some large corporation and that somehow that's going to add up to some pot of money, some point in my life where I can do the things I want to do. They're like BS.
Hello, everyone. It's Michele Phillips and Write Your Outcome. And today you're in for such a treat. I don't know Rita that well, but I feel like we're kindred spirits already just by learning what I know about her. So I'm going to read you her mission because it resonates with me. And I want you to, as I'm reading it, ask yourself, does it resonate with you? Rita's mission is to change the way organizations lead by prioritizing trust and autonomy within teams. She believes that when people are empowered to take ownership of their roles, they are celebrated for their unique talents. It then fosters a culture of engagement, loyalty, and growth. By shifting away from the rigid top-down management styles, Rita helps leaders create environments where individuals are not just employees. Love that. They're contributors who thrive, innovate, and propel the company forward. So I don't know if you're listening to this probably resonated with you too, because who wouldn't want that?
We did a good job when we wrote that, didn't we? But I believe that in all of my heart. You know, Michele, what I love to say, just to cut to the chase when you listen to that mission, is we are a quarter of a way into a new century. We are a quarter of a way into the 21st century. And we still have leaders using a playbook from the Industrial Revolution.
Yes.
I mean, it is just time. It is time to put that old playbook to bed. We have evolved. We're not manufacturing anymore. No. We are now professional organizations. We are, even for the most basic jobs inside of factories, people are expected to have college degrees. So we are educated individuals who need to be approached and respected as the adults and the professionals that we are.
So this resonates so much with me. And I want to get your take on this. When I go into a corporation, people say, how do you bring this stuff in? I always say, I look for the believers. There's always a leader who gets it. So tell me a little bit of your journey, because we have similar backgrounds. You were in corporate doing OD work, psychology work, and then you moved into your own business, which I did the same. But tell me a little bit about how you transitioned and who your clients are when it comes to that, who those leaders are.
Yeah. So I spent my time in Fortune 200 companies as an internal consultant, which I don't know about you, Michele, but I mean, there were fun things about it. But at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know, maybe I should have went and worked for McKinsey & Company and got the big dollars, because I don't know that we worked any fewer hours. I even traveled a lot at one point in time. But I got to a place in my life where the company I was in, the values were not aligned. And I found myself unwilling to compromise my values. And I am one of those Gen Xers that I will just rail against the machine. And I know millennials think they wrote the book on that, but they did not. And so I found myself in this place where my values were not aligned. I was advocating for what I thought were the spoken values and the dissonance between the spoken values and the practiced values. But eventually my husband, when I took that job, my daughter was 6 months old. Now you have to understand, it was not easy for us to conceive, and we waited 7 years into our relationship before we even tried. So we went into parenthood in a very thoughtful and intentional way. So when you do things intentionally in your life, right, you are calling that to a place of priority. So I'm in this company. I've decided family is a priority at this point in my life. And I'm in a company where the values aren't aligned, where I was basically told, you either need to take a travel job where 2 weeks out of every month you are in Puerto Rico, or you'll never move forward in your career. And my husband was like, walk away, go take a sabbatical. You've been doing this now for almost 20 years. Like, like if you were in education, you'd get a sabbatical. Like take the sabbatical. It'll be 18 months. Natalie will be in kindergarten, and then you can go back and you can find a different job. Just take the sabbatical. And so I said yes to that. I knew at some level he was correct, but I also knew, Michele, as a woman with a child at home, that when I went to interview after taking this space, that was going to be held against me.
Old school. All these things are old school, right? Even the fact
Right.
that they said you had to like leave your 6-month-old baby. Then you had, then the judgment when you come back, and I always say corporations miss such a good opportunity because there's so many moms out there on ramping and off ramping that have so much value to give, but they don't want to give it 60 hours, 40 hours a week. Sometimes, right? If they could give some kind of give and take, you'd get all these fabulous, brilliant women.
Well, it's why there's so much conversation about flexibility right now and the intersection of this desire for flexibility and well-being, whole person well-being, because we have now the research and the studies. When I was coming up through organizational psychology, we were in the infancy of studying this stuff, but we are no longer in the infancy. We now have over 50 years worth of research behind this. And so we know the truisms. And one of the truths is that when we are well, and this, the Gallup 25 State of the Workplace report just came out this week. And a call out is overall well-being. They've started adding overall well-being into their study because when people have overall well-being, they are better workers, they are better leaders, they deliver better results. And so it's so short-sighted. To me, the best gift of the pandemic is prior to the pandemic, at least this is the way I experienced it. It was sort of like you backed your car out of the garage, or you hopped on the bus to go, or train to head into work. And you put these blinders on, I live in Louisville, Kentucky. So it is about to be Derby season. You put the blinders on the horse so they don't see anything but what's right in front of them. And that's how we treated work. Like everybody was supposed to walk in and put these blinders on. They were not supposed to think about anything except that job for their 8 to 10 hours a day that they were in work. And what happened in the pandemic for the people, and I have interesting stories about this because I worked with a lot of essential workers that were in the Alice in Wonderland of trying to be in a company that was no longer operating like the company they knew. But for all of the the people that weren't essential workers that went home and set up their remote office and started working distance with their teammates, what they found out is, you know what? I can be just as productive and I can have this integration of my whole life. And I don't have to put blinders on. In fact, I can't because I got to get my kid into classroom at the right time. I got to make sure that they are, logging on to their classes, that they're doing their work. They're doing, so they're trying to manage all of these things simultaneously. But parents found out, you know what? Not only can I do that, but I can do that and get my job done smarter and better.
It was a gift. And I remember one of the leaders I worked with, he said to me, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe how hard they're working from home." I never thought it was possible. So now you raised such a good point. The 2020-25 Gallup came out, but we all know, like, when you feel better, you do better, right? And I love on your website, it says better workplaces get better results. So we kind of know that, but we give it, like you said, lip service. So
yes.
What's the disconnect with leaders that we go, yeah, let's hang it on the wall. But then we don't practice it. Where do you think we go wrong there?
Isn't that the $1 million question? Right? Mm-hmm. And there are leaders, there are organizations that stand out. I mean, even though they're changing their policies, like Southwest Airlines in the airline industry is a standout. They have fun at work. They celebrate individuality. In fact, they encourage people to show their uniqueness, and they make this idea of making people's day and really understanding that they're not just providing transportation. That they can
create
an experience. Yeah,
I love
you
it.
go for the experience, right? I mean, it's part of the allure of the brand. So in categories, we have leaders that get it. And then but it's entrenchment. And I think it just gets to the psychology of all of us. It's just easier we're like water. Unfortunately, in our own minds, we are like water. Water takes the path of least resistance. Staying in the rut of the old lazy ways of leading people and just commanding and demanding is way easier. It's the path of least resistance compared to practicing, building new muscles, practicing new skills.
If you've never had an example of that, you don't know. And a great Southwest story that illustrates something I read on your website. I was recently on a Southwest flight from between New York and Baltimore, and the flight attendant said, it's going to be a bumpy ride, so we're not going to do service. So since we're not doing service, she said, you can, we have internet if you want to buy internet. She said, but if you want to buy internet for a 50-minute flight, you might want to put that money towards therapy. She said. We all started laughing. And then she said, when we had to put our bags, she said, everything goes under the seat. Everything. If it's strapped to, if it's this, it's that. She goes from Gucci to Goodwill. It all goes under the seat. And it's that what I see on your website too, it's the more we let people be their unique selves, the more everyone's having more fun, the more like I was happy as the customer. I mean, I repeated that story so many times because she made me happy.
And look, and that is why companies prosper, because look, we all get together with people in lots of different situations. It might be the family around the dinner table. It might be friends out for drinks. It might be sitting in the airport lounge, waiting to go to your next destination, right? And we exchange these stories. And these stories, this is free publicity. And so the story can either be, it's just so negative, just so, it's all about your dissatisfaction. How many times have you sat in an airport and listened to people complaining?
We love airport stories.
About how unhappy they are because their flight got canceled because of this, because of that, right? Or you can have people telling these stories about something great that happened to them. And the same is true for every company's employees. Are your employees sitting around and are they smack talking you behind your back? Or are they your biggest fan and advocate? If you're not thinking about whether or not I'm converting my employees into fans of my company, and you own a company, especially a smaller business, you are leaving so much money on the table. It is ridiculous.
You are singing my song. I love this. Because we've become so accustomed to the wah. Even in the supermarket this morning, I said to the girl, how you doing today? Oh, I don't have time to do. She just started, she's a register girl. And it's like we've become so accustomed to our want that we, to flip that, to tell a new story, like you say, is what we all need to do. So where do you start? You go into a company, you assess where they are. What's your model? How do you do this?
So I tend to work with companies that are privately held. That's my preference. It's not that I won't do work in a big company. And, hey, Google, Disney, you want to hire me to come do some stuff to help you get back on track? Like, I'm all in. Let's talk. But what I like about privately held companies is that typically the founder or family members are still very much involved. And they have such a different level of ownership and commitment to the legacy that they are creating, that they can make decisions like, you know what, I'll take lesser pay, or I won't bonus myself and I'll put that money back into this company. They're not answering to Wall Street. They're not hitting this projection, this number. Wall Street allows businesses to do a lot of things, but it also, in the kind of work that we do, it's like the evil genius over in the corner.
Right? I always say no brilliant jerks allowed. And it's, it's so interesting because you found the sweet spot in these privately owned companies, and I find the sweet spot in intact teams. So I might work in a giant company, but I'm not training the whole company. I'm working with intact teams with a leader who gets it, who wants to change their circle of influence, maybe not the whole company, because I think what you're saying is important. You need that person on the top to drive this and to almost give them permission. And I hate to use the word permission. What's the word? It's another word, acceptance, that this is good. This is a normal way of doing business.
Yeah. I mean, it can be support. I mean, if you're working I'm a huge believer. I think the other thing that really changed for me coming out of COVID is I used to be one of those people that promoted, you got to get the people together at the top of the organization. You got to get them aligned on a vision and values. You've got to, decide what the culture is going to be like. And then you communicate that all down through the organization using all your great change management skills. And what happened, what I saw, because I was working with these essential business, what is that nothing changed at the top. Not a single thing changed at the top of that organization. What changed were the rules. What changed were the everyday experiences, and the cultures fell apart. Now,
so give us an example. I love where you're going with this.
So I worked with a surgery center. And at first, they had to shutter their doors before they were declared to be essential and allow people to come through for medical procedures again. So there was a little period of time where everybody sort of furloughed, and they're scrambling. They're trying to create work opportunities for people to come in and at least get some check from the company. So deep cleaning, things like that. So they were trying to be really creative about that. Then when they were finally able to open, everybody had to be COVID tested before their procedures. It's an outpatient surgery center. Usually the family members come in, they're in the rooms, they're waiting, all of those things. Not now. Now they got to wait in the parking lot, like all of those. There's, one day you're hand sanitizing, the next day your face mask, with the plastic shield all the way over the rules are changing constantly. The employees are no longer allowed to gather in the break rooms. Mm-hmm. They have to go to the cars to eat lunch because we're not, we're trying so hard not to get COVID in the center so that we are protecting not just the employees and their families, but the patients coming in every day.
So this is, my podcast is Write the Outcome. Your tagline is kind of tell a better story. How do you tell a better story in that situation? I would love to break this down.
So in this situation,
the story I tell myself. I'm sorry, I said it wrong.
So in this situation, what was happening is that people's faces are covered. So no longer are we seeing each other smile at one another. People are they're where they used to never have their phones out. Now they're burying their faces in their phones because they're ordering groceries to pick up on their way home from work that day. They're entertaining themselves because they're not sitting around in the break room chit-chatting with each other anymore, right? And so what happened is that people got disconnected just in the most basic ways of humaning with one another. And then on top of that, the rules are changing all the time. So there are three things. Self-determination theory says there are three things we need. One is we need belonging. Well, our belonging is getting crippled because we're not really connecting with one another. Two, we need competence. We need to be able to show our mastery. Well, the rules are changing all the time. So people don't feel like they have mastery in what they're doing anymore, right? So you have these conditions that we need as human beings to bring our best selves that are being thwarted by circumstance. Right. And so eventually, it starts wearing people down. And so now we're in the workplace every day and we're working side by side, but I'm not really feeling as connected. I'm not feeling as much meaning. I'm feeling uncertain about what I'm doing. And so all of those things start working on my internal thinking. Right. And so instead of thinking about how can I help you more, it's like, how am I going to get through this day? Right?
So the story I'm telling myself is I'm in jeopardy. I'm lonely. I'm disconnected. I'm not sure of what I'm supposed to do.
We're in the workplace together, but I'm lonely, right? Yeah. Because I don't have the connection that I have with my colleagues anymore. So once we get on the other side of the pandemic and I come in to work with them and we do a survey, the first thing we do is we go collect some data and we say, what are the, give us your top three concerns and give us the top three things that we're doing well. Like, how do we build on what we're doing well? What are the top three things that we need to address? And so fascinating. The number one thing everybody wanted, they wanted potlucks back. I want you to think about this because it blew
it's so
my
simple.
mind.
It doesn't have to be that hard.
They wanted their potlucks. And why? Because potlucks are a symbol of community. Potlucks are about gathering. We celebrate one another. Ooh, I love that dish you made, right? It's just a whole different kind of human to human connection. And
I love that. I used to work in a company that did, what was it? They called it like, what did you eat? What did your culture, your family eat when you had no money? Like, and because every culture has some kind of simple dish that they make when times are tough. And it was such a fun exercise. So it's community. I love that.
Yes. So what we did is we listened to them. Two, what I do is I facilitate a series of conversations with employees that get people reconnected to meaning. Because one of the things that we need to understand our purpose and significance. And when we have the story going on of our own discontent and disconnection, and we aren't comfortable to sit in that. So we start looking outside of ourselves and we start playing the blame game and we start scorekeeping and all of those things. That was so
big during that time period.
So people, and this is the story that they're telling themselves is, I'm working harder than everybody else. My colleague isn't pulling their weight. And it doesn't matter if there is data that is unproving that. Psychologically and biologically, we are designed to only take in what affirms our knowing. So if what we know is I'm working harder than anybody else on the team, that's what we've told ourselves. We look for all of the examples of ways that we are putting in more effort than everybody else to affirm our ego, to affirm our story, and we ignore all the data to the contrary. So it just
how do you get people to start to see they could start to tell a better story? The story I'm telling myself could be better than the one I'm already telling. So what are some tools?
So it's a series, it's not a snap your fingers. It's a series of conversations. It's a series of activities together where we reconnect. But one of the most simple things that anyone can do is start a practice of gratitude. So one of the most powerful exercises that I do, and it brings tears in the room every time, is I give people simple index cards and I ask them to write 3 notes of gratitude to 3 separate people. And then I put them into a pair, a triad, a quad, something like that. And they actually go around and they read those out loud. And we talk about the power of just writing it. What happens to you internally when you write it? Then when you speak it out loud, and then when you receive, even if it wasn't intended for you, hearing somebody else say those words, it breaks down it's like unclogging a drain. So the best visual I can give you is imagine that all of these stories about I'm working harder and they're not doing their weight and all that is like hair that's clogging the drain pipe. And this activity is like Drano, and it just dissolves all of that away, and it allows the flow of energy again. The reminder of I care about you and you care about me and you see what's good in me and I see what's good in you.
That's so important.
Right?
And I love that these 2 things are so simple. We make it too complicated.
Yes.
There used to be a quote that you have to be confident to be simple, because if you're not confident, you're scared to death, you'll look simple. But, potluck and, gratitude, and people take it, I don't want to say they poo-poo it, but they don't realize the gravity and the fabulous results. And so I say, you have to try it on. You have to try it on for 30 days and then call me back, right? Take 2, gratitudes and call me in the morning kind of, and then tell me how it's changed.
And gratitude alone is not going to be enough. It is the perfect place to start. It will get you a real change, but it will buy the level of openness in people's hearts and minds that you need to do the deeper work. If you just stop there, eventually you are not, it's going to blow up in your face because it's going to feel performative. So that, it's probably a lot of the same stuff that you do working in with teams. Now we got to go back in and we got to talk about what are our agreements about how we're treating one another in the workplace? What are our values? How are we living up to our values? How can we live up to our values more? What has meaning and significance to you? What are you here to accomplish? How can we help one another accomplish those things? What's the experience that we create for one another?
I'm going to bring it back to the values because so often when I go into companies and most of the times people in companies meet for task reasons. They meet because they've got projects. Where are you on this project? What are you doing? But when you meet to talk about your values, when you meet to talk about, we have these great values on the wall, but are we living up to them? Are we treating each other that way? It deepens it. So do you tell me a little bit more about how you bring that to a company? Almost like a healthy diet of values versus you don't just eat well on Monday and then eat potato chips the rest of the week. You have to keep that value conversation going.
Yes. Well, what I like to do is in the data collection. So when I go in to do the assessment and listen to the employees and what they have to say, when they say, here are my 3 priorities of the things that I think are the biggest stumbling blocks we need to fix, I like to align those to the values.
Okay, I like it.
So that we sort of have a sense of what are the behaviors that are showing up that are getting in the way or are missing that are needed. And how do they work to the values and align to those values? And so I like to create that sort of connection and then unleash the team to say, so if this is the state of the union right now around these values, let's do some sorting. So one of the things that we do is we do some rating about, how do we feel we are today? Where do we think that we need the most work? But more importantly, what do we think is most important in this moment? Because most companies are going to have 5 to 9 values and you can't work on 5 to 9 things, right? So you let the employees tell you, like, here is what I think are the top 2 or 3 things that are most important for the future. Right?
And how do you, so if you have all these employees, how do you come up with the top 3? Are they voting? Are they?
Yeah. I like to use a multi-rater voting process to get to that. And then you can focus them on that. Okay. So if these are the top 2 things, now let's divide into groups again and let's brainstorm. What are the things that we think would have the most impact in moving the needle from here? And then we can take that into smaller teams and cross-functional teams and start to talk about, here are the ideas. What does that look like? How are we agreeing to treat one another? How are we agreeing to move this forward? Which of these ideas can we personally impact? So it's again, like you said, so many companies are focused on projects and tasks. But you also, it's like I'm an entrepreneur and so are you. So we tell ourselves and we tell people all the time, you have to work on your business, not just in your business, right? Companies fall victim to the same thing. When they are stuck in project and task mode, they are working in their business, but they are not leveraging the knowledge, skills, and abilities of their full team to work on the business. And I really believe that if you want to be a top performing organization, you need to be able to co-create with everyone in your organization. They need to be collaborators in that process.
Oh my God, that's so good. So I have 2 questions I want to get in before we get off, but, you have so many success stories on your website, so I want you to share a success story. But first, I love what you say on your website. You say, give people the star treatment. And I just love the way that sounds. So can you explain that? When you come into a corporation, what are you asking them to do?
So we were talking earlier about how we're in a new century and we're still using these old fashioned models of people management and leadership. And in today's social media world, especially with younger people, people are scratching their heads and they're like, okay, why does nobody want to work anymore? It's not that people don't want to work anymore. People want to they want to put their effort, talent to something that is meaningful to them. Yeah. So if you are not connecting with them at a level where they understand how the tasks and the work that they are doing is something that has meaning to what they are trying to be in the greater part of being a person in this world right now, you are just a job, a job job.
You're making me think of the Martin Seligman, the levels of happiness, right? So the first level is pleasure, getting your nails done, having a cup of coffee with a friend. Then it's the flow zone, time's flying. And then it's using your strength in service of something greater than you. So that's then I feel like a star. Now
and that's where people want to be. And so in today's world where you can make $1 million on YouTube, or there are so many other options. Younger people, especially, they are not buying into, I need to go sign up to work for some large corporation and that somehow that's going to add up to some pot of money, some point in my life where I can do the things I want to do.
I remember when I first saw there was there was a YouTube award show. I'm like, what? I'm like, there's these people that get awards for being the top YouTubes.
TikTok. So my daughter tells me, she's like, the way young people monetize these things, right? Cryptocurrency, DraftKings, the sports betting stuff. I mean, there were so many ways for people to supplement their income. And you know what? If they're just bored to death being at your corporate job, they're happy to go DoorDash to pay their bills.
It's so true. And okay, so I want to bring you back to, you really hit me with this. We're a quarter into a new century. We're already a quarter into it. Like that, I was like, oh my God, I never looked at it that way. Like you really gave me like an aha there. So now, what do you want to do with this juicy life? What do you want to do with the next step? So share some of the success. I mean, you had so much success. I was reading so many quotes and 100% happy customers. So share maybe one of your success stories, with, when people bring you in and you actually do the work. It doesn't have to be complex, but it's consistent. And then they get the result. Tell me about some of the fabulous results you've gotten.
So one of my favorite clients that I've been working with recently that I like to highlight, they work with adults with disabilities. So it is, for lack of a better word, a daycare facility. It's programming. It's daytime programming that adults with disabilities can attend, where they have community, where they have, engagement, stimulus, around them. And, of course, like so many businesses, they were trying to build their membership of participants back up and build their staff back up. And so they were struggling they brought me in because they were struggling with negativity. In 2022, I wrote a book called Show Up Positive, and they were just like, look, come help us figure out how to get our people to show up positive again, because we've never had this problem before, but we're not really there. And so I came in and we did all of the things, the gratitude and all of those things. And then we sort of got the mental reset we were looking for. But what we recognized was that the frontline supervisors who are really engaging with the staff at the most basic level, they'd been thrown into jobs and didn't really know anything about how to manage people. They liked these ideas, but didn't really feel like they were ready to support that in a meaningful way. And so I've been with them over, 2 to 3 years. We've been doing ongoing work. So I come in, we do some work with the different levels of leaders, inside of the organization, teaching them the skills, building out capacity to do these things. And this is what the data from the 2025 Gallup survey is telling us, is that managers, we have a whole suite of young people under the age of 35 that are completely overwhelmed in people management responsibilities because nobody is teaching them. I don't know if we think AI is going to teach them or if we think that they're going to Google an answer, but companies are not giving them the skills and the support they need. And they're feeling stressed out and overwhelmed, which is leading to burnout and disconnection. And when managers get disconnected, employees follow because they're not able to give them what they need. And so this idea of STAR treatment is that we've got to give managers the skills that they need so that they can really take this idea and meet the employees where they need to be and really seeing their unique talents and actually encouraging them to bring the best versions of themselves and to come together collectively and do that. But, people want to be seen and heard and valued. This idea that people are just going to show up and do a job and be loyal and be thankful to you because they're getting a paycheck, that is a 1950s notion that I don't care how many people in politics and in executive leadership at Fortune 100 companies want to tell you we're going to go backwards to there.
No,
the new generation's not going with you. They're just not going to go there with you.
I think that's a Gallup quote. When it comes between employee policy and human nature always wins.
Yes.
Right. If we were all told we couldn't eat at our desks anymore, we would be sneaking food at our desks. So this is fabulous. I want you to give a quick synopsis of your book because I just love the title, Show Up Positive. And then I want you to tell people where they can find you and any last words of wisdom.
So Show Up Positive is, it's an intention that I have to give people a guidebook that helps them understand how to actually enact. So it's a behavior-based guide. And I tell all kinds of stories there about working with clients. And this is not false positivity. This is not pretending that everything is good. This is saying, I am going to cultivate positivity in myself because I want to show up as the best version of me. Yes. So Show Up Positive isn't about fixing other people. If you're looking for a book to fix other people, don't go buy my book.
Yeah. But I'm getting so excited listening to you. I hope everybody listening there are things you could do. It's not fake. People think it's fake. Yes. It's not fake.
It's not fake.
You can learn and you can actually show up positive. I cut you off because I'm just getting so excited.
So the front half of the book sort of makes the business case and explains to you how the second half of the book are 50 words, 50 positive behaviors. And you don't have to use all 50 of them, but the idea is that and it's just a little two-page explainer with some questions to ask yourself to really start to dig in and think about. So I'll give you like one of my favorite really simple behaviors. It's welcoming. The idea is, are you smiling at people when you pass them? Are you saying hello? When somebody enters a room, do you pause and just say, hey, Michele, great to see you today? I mean, how many times does somebody maybe sneak in late and they're just like totally ignored?
That's the number one complaint people give me is my boss comes to work and doesn't say hello.
Yes, exactly. It's such an easy thing to do. It costs you nothing to just say, when I pass people in the hallway, I'm going to smile. I'm going to say their name. When people come or go from a room, I'm going to acknowledge them, right? It's such a small behavior, but these small behaviors, when I look at you and I smile, you know what happens inside of my internal meter? My positive energy goes up. So you are not only fueling somebody else, you are fueling yourself. And then you get the exchange. Because mirror neurons. So if you smile at somebody, they're going to smile back at you, mirror neurons, and you're going to get even a little more bigger bump. So it is legitimate. It is science. And the 50 words are just there to give you a place to start. But the idea is it becomes a practice. And it is not every day a new word. It is maybe once a week, once a month. I'm working on a word for a while because I'm trying to create a new pattern of behavior, not because I need to fix anybody but myself, that I'm trying to adjust the dial inside of my own body. And if you want to know more, igniteextraordinary.com is my website. You can find everything about me there. And LinkedIn and Instagram are the two platforms where I do the most posting.
All right. Well, I'm going to buy this book as soon as we get off this and I'm going to use it probably for myself and for my clients. I'm energized just having this conversation. We could go on, but I think this is the biggest message for folks is if you're not feeling good and you're not happy with your results, there's methods and tools and skills and things you can learn to tell a better story. The story you're telling yourself can be improved all the time. So Rita, thank you. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun. And just make it a great day, everyone. This is Michele Phillips from Write Your Outcome. Make it a great day.